Peace, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are very well, wherever you may be. In April of this year, I purchased a 1994 Toyota pickup, which you may have seen a video or two so far of the truck. And since then, I have documented everything that I have done to the truck, and I wanted to share that with you. So in this video, we're just going to go over what I've done to the pickup and give you some insight if you are doing your own mechanic work. I'm not a mechanic, but this is just to give some tips and insight into what it might cost if you are looking at buying an older car, just to get back up and up to date and up to speed, or this might just give you an idea of how much it costs if you are interested in that. So anyways, here's the information. Let's lay this out for you. I ended up buying the pickup truck in, I said that already, April 9th, or it might have been the 10th, and I bought it for $2,250. So obviously I added insurance and initiated the title. You'll see that I dated all this stuff, and some of them have prices next to them, which is how much I paid for the parts. I did everything myself. I did all of the labor myself, other than my buddy came to help me loosen up a power steering flare nut it was hard for me to get in, and he is a mechanic, and he did it with no problem. So we're all learning as we go, and it's nice to have a friend that can help, that knows what they're doing. So shortly after, I did the regular oil filter, air filter change. I used a conventional oil. I kind of just did some research based off of what I was reading. I got a conventional Castrol that has ran great so far. So shortly after I cleaned out the coolant recovery tank. So these are just little small things that I added in as well. But it's important to note, if you're keeping track of all this, it really helps that you don't have to remember all of this. There's no way I would remember every single thing on their date anyways, and how much I paid and all that. So a day after, I got the ignition switch that came with the purchase of the vehicle. Somebody had already bought the replacement. The key had been broken off into the ignition switch, which I wish I would have kept the key just to take picture. I might have a picture of it actually, so I can show you guys here in this video what this stuff was looking like. You'll also see some videos, if you haven't already, in this video pop up that are related to what I'm explaining. So I did a small rust hole repair, the JB Weld extreme heat little tube, and I was like a putty that I used for that, and it worked fine. Bought some new wipers, which were much needed. I went to Advanced Auto Parts and bought a good battery for it, because the battery that was in it was not a good battery. I'm pretty sure it was just like a refurbished or used, cheap battery. So I put a good battery in it, because having a good battery is important. Just that can help eliminate finicky issues that can arise from using cheap stuff. A battery in this case. So I put a new front bumper on afterwards, and that was a little $100 there. The battery was $270, so now we're getting into a little bit more pricier stuff. I wanted to repair the front and back bumpers because they were pretty beat up, and that's all I've done so far cosmetically, pretty much, and we will get to the other stuff. This is actually just the latch for the back seat window. So the more fun thing that I was explaining was the next day, over the next couple of days, the back panel was replaced. I found one on eBay for like $50 or $60. I had to use a razor blade to scrape all the tint off that was already peeling. And other than that, I have a video of how to do that. I didn't actually record that because I wasn't sure how I was going to actually do it. So I could not find a single video anywhere on how to do it or in the forums on how to replace other than replacing the entire back windshield, or whatever you would call that rear window. So I do have a quick video explaining that, and if you do run into that with your vehicle, you can figure it out. So just take your time, and you could do it. The original hubcaps, I bought some OGs. I spent a couple hundred on that, but now there were a couple already on the truck, and I ended up buying some more just because they were sold as a set. So I have 6 now, which is awesome. If one cracks or whatever, because these are becoming harder to find. So it's nice to have those. I actually usually keep them off. I'm going to try and clean them up a bit. Windshield wiper fluid rinse and refill. Easy, simple. Vinyl top cleaner, or vinyl top cleaned. And so over the next week or so, I'm cleaning up everything. And as we saw, the basic oil change and air filter. Did the bumpers because I was like, oh, I can order these and do that early on. So I changed out the grill over the next day. We put that's like the plastic grill that goes above the front bumper. Everything was cracked or broken and dented. So yeah, that's why I was changing all this out. I changed the light bulbs out that were bad. So the dome light, side markers, turn signal bulb, put some new bulbs in. A high pressure hose, the high pressure power steering hose installation. That's the one I explained earlier. My buddy helped me pop a flare nut off that I was having difficulty with, and I didn't want to strip it. But the pressure steering hose, when I purchased the vehicle, I should have a video to pop up now. That was no bueno. It was leaking all over the place. I guess the leak could have been worse, but yeah, it was leaking. It was leaking pretty good. So we got that changed out. New tail light install. New tail lights. So I replaced the entire lights. Got the title about a little over a week later. So Easter Sunday, I added the fuel system cleaner. I'm not sure which one I got. I probably bought the Toyota kind, which was a little bit more expensive. But whatever. It had been sitting for a while, and I wanted to make sure that I bought something good for the tank. And it needed it. It really needed it. So highly recommended, even if you do buy some cheaper stuff or whatever you think will work for your vehicle. I recommend it. I recommend it, especially if the vehicle has been sitting for a while. The next day we have I installed a receiver. So this was a hitch receiver that mounted to the frame that allowed me to actually tow not 5,000. Well, the capacity for the receiver is 5,000, but the pickup that I have only tows about a few thousand pounds, or at least that's what it's rated for. So I bought a more than sturdy enough receiver that I installed, and that was a few $100. But now I do have a 2-inch ball that I can hook up. I have a couple of small trailers that I can pull, which is awesome. I also have a bike rack that hooks up in the back with a 2-inch on the receiver that's currently installed. So yeah, basically awesome to have, and I definitely recommend it. If you don't have one, this is an older pickup truck. It was the basic extended cab, 2-wheel drive or rear wheel drive that does not come with any. Well, it comes with the ball on the bumper, but yeah. New spark plugs, new spark wires. That was a big one too. just be careful when you do these. Obviously, match up your wires. Just don't mix up the numbers that they go to. Record everything you do. That's the easiest way to make sure that you do everything backwards in order. New spark plugs, new wires. I bought OEMs. It cost a little bit more for everything, but whatever. I got good Denso plugs and good spark plug wires, and it's been loving it. The same time, I did the distributed cap and rotor and the O-ring gasket, and everything. So it's been turning over, firing up, and running great so far. Things that could happen when you do those problems. When you do those the maintenance, some problems that can arise would be like a misfire or your engine sounding funny because the spark plug, or you might have a check engine light come on. Your spark plugs are not properly installed. That's a very common, or they were installed incorrectly when you put the wires into the cap, and you didn't match them up to the correct plug. So make sure everything you do is exactly as it needs to be. So take your time, I think, is one simple way to sum all this up. A new dipstick, yeah, the one that you wouldn't think you would need to replace it, and I guess you technically don't. You could just keep the old one if you want. But there's a rubber seal that was really worn out on the original dipstick, so I just bought another one, and now it seals when you push you could feel it when you push the dipstick down into the tube. It actually like seals. The last one was cracked. As you know, all the rubber that isn't being oiled by some lubricant, it ends up drying and cracking. So, yeah, this is just stuff that after a vehicle has been around for 20 or 30 years, some of the rubber and stuff is going to need to be replaced, especially rubber that isn't being covered by some oil or lubricant. Let's keep going. This is all in April still. We did a coolant flush and refill. So that was a decent job to do. I bought the good 50/50 Toyota. I actually had to add an O-ring, I think. Yeah, the radiator drain plug, or at least for my own psychological peace. I added something. It was either a little gasket seal or an O-ring, just to make sure when I put that petcock back on, which is it's the little plug for the coolant tank at the bottom of the coolant tank. I didn't want that to leak out because I was reusing the same one, and you don't want to over tighten it because it's plastic. So that's what I did. And then I did a distilled water flush a couple of times. So this is something that you would do if you watch any of the YouTube videos. Watch a few of them and then take notes from all of them and then put together what you need to do. That's what I do, and it's worked so far. I'm not a mechanic like I mentioned at the beginning, but anybody can do this if you put some effort into it and if you will to do it, if you want to do it. So anyways, this is coolant flush refill done, and I explained that you flush with distilled water. Okay, don't use tap water. This stuff has other stuff in it that could contaminate your pipes and your hoses. Fuel tank cap replacement that was worn out you can just see that it needed to be replaced at the top. When you look inside the cap, I might have it laying around, but if not, just check. You check yours and make sure that it's not worn out. Replace that. The dash pot adjustment. So that was something that I wasn't exactly sure. I don't know how efficient what I did there was, but it's just this little screw that taps the dash pot, and you back off the nut a little bit and then adjust it to where it either is slightly longer or shorter depending on what you need to do. I did it as such small increment that I don't really know if what it did, but it didn't make anything worse. So I might not have changed really anything there. for April 23rd, the idle adjuster screw. That's something that you can get small air leaks coming through that because there is an O-ring that sits in the adjuster screw that will definitely end up wearing out or drying out over time and cracking and becomes ineffective. So make sure you get the O-ring, and it's the notes to set to factory. It says turn 3 turns counterclockwise from fully closed position. So easy, and that's what I did. I screwed it all the way down and then backed it off 3 turns. And then as I listened to it, I might still have, this is for the idle, okay, when it's idling. It might still be a little high. So I could actually, once the car is warmed up, is when you want to start the car, or start the truck, let it run, and eventually, once it warms up, then see what it's idling at, and adjust that if you need to. But the main thing to consider there was just that O-ring, because when I pulled out the original adjuster screw, the adjuster screw was okay, but the O-ring was shot, long gone. And then I did the valve cover gasket replacement install. There are notorious on this engine, the 22RE, the half moons. There's leak in the back. That's at least from what I read, a notorious thing that happens on the 22RE with the half moons. I did end up buying a different set of half moons from 22RE Performance, where I also bought some other parts, and I definitely recommend those guys. You guys go check 22reperformance.com out if you need any parts for your truck. They're awesome to deal with, and fair prices, great shipping, and just great people to deal with overall. So go check them out. I have not installed my the red metal half moons that I bought from them, but next go around I will. Or if I see those rubber half moons starting to fail and I'm seeing some oil leaking from the back or anywhere, I'll go ahead and put those other ones in, which you just use some gasket maker around the bottom, I think, or around maybe the whole thing. I don't know. You just watch I know at least at the bottom part. Easy instructions when you are changing out your half moons. The valve cover gasket replacement install. So the valve cover grommets installed. Those are the studs that hold in your valve cover. I just changed those out with some easier grommets. Essentially, they are just Allen. They have an Allen head on them, and you don't torque these down much at all. Again, these are the studs that are at the top. There's 4 of them at the top of your valve cover that you have to remove to get anything off. So having those is great. These grommets make it way easier to get the valve cover on and off. Next, we have the new battery clamp kit install, and the fuel lid door lock. So these are just a couple of little things. Battery clamp, that's to hold the battery down. There was nothing for it was just kind of, I didn't want it rattling or shaking I wanted it stationary. New fuel lid, that was just so it was the little lock for the fuel door. New locking key. And then I put a new fuel filter in, and make sure that you use new copper washers. I guess most times they'll tell you to use new washers because the other ones can get indented, and worn over time. For the banjo bolt. So you have 2. I put the instructions under here so we could see what we need to do next time. I have to change the fuel filter every so many miles. It's a little hard to get to on this truck, but I was able to do it. I actually put it in backwards the first time, and had to take it off again and put it. So it just gave me some extra practice. I'm glad that I figured out it was on backwards. I don't know how long that would have ran well for, or if it would have just kept running. I don't know, but having the filter backwards is definitely not the way to keep it. Um, yeah, I noticed it after I had completely put it back on, cranked it up and everything, and I double checked it from the video that I had um, watched and realized, oh, that's backwards. So, anyways, it happens. Be patient. I didn't end up stripping any banjo bolts. I didn't break any knuckles, but yeah, just swap it back the other way, and it's been working fine. Oh well, once you hook it up, just crank the truck up and make sure there's no leaks. And obviously, after you drive the car too. And then the brake fluid bleeding. Um, this is another, having another person definitely helps here, but I could do it here by myself with no problem. You just create a gravity fed suction with the plastic bottle in a tube, and you make sure that uh, the end of the final tube fits snug over the nipple of the um, brakes, and you pump the brakes. You can watch multiple videos on this, by the way, but you pump it until you see clean fluid. Yeah, and you got to keep topping off your reservoir because you do not want your brake fluid to go below a certain point in your reservoir, in your cylinder, because it will cause air to get in and mess up your brake lines. So as you go around, you're going to pump out fluid, and there's a way to do that to ensure that you're not adding air into the system. You start from the tire of furthest tire from the cylinder, and you work your way up to the closest tire. That's a quick brief on the bleeding the brake fluid, which I definitely recommend doing all this, especially if you're considering, driving, having a daily driver, and having an older vehicle as a daily driver. All right, I'm not editing this. Then we have the next month, starting in May. I did the belts, so none of the belts are none of the belts had broken, but all of the belts were cracked and drying out. So I changed them all at the same time. You have 3 on this truck: the water pump, the AC, and the power steering. So just make sure that you match up all of your parts numbers as always, and make sure that that you're putting the right belts on the right areas. You kind of have to. So yeah, just take your time. Um, this I watched a video. Man, what's the guy's name? Was his name Kenny? Kenny's Junk on YouTube. I'm trying to give credit where it's due. Where I watched some of these videos that I can recall. I think that was his YouTube name. Awesome little video. Thanks, man, by the way, because that really helped me. I think I left a comment of appreciation. I was able to, I think it took me an hour or two. I don't know. I took my time because I record things and take notes, and I also don't like to do things multiple times if I can help it. So yeah, and I didn't want these belts, like, if you install a belt incorrectly, it can warp when you go to start the car. So, these are just little things I was taking in consideration and taking my time to ensure preventive measures. I didn't want anything to happen if I could help it, but things happen, right? So anyways, let's keep going. All is well. We got the belts changed, and so far they've been fine. When you go to turn the belt, you don't want to be able to turn it more than halfway. Meaning that when you put your fingers on the belt, if you twist the belt after you've installed it, if you go to twist the belt, you don't want to be able to twist it over halfway. If you're flipping it upside down, or that's way too loose. So just find a good fit after you've tightened everything back up, go back down and check it. And then once you run the truck a little bit, or your car, drive your vehicle, you can go back after it's cooled down, check it again, and make sure that it's not loose. So now we have the PCV valve and grommet, and clamps, hoses for the PCV valve, and yeah, that was pretty easy. It sits at on top of the valve cover, and you just change the course, match the hoses up that you get, and make sure that it's for the PCV valve. The PCV valve was pretty. It wasn't too difficult to get off. What I was trying to remember what I had to do. Tight when you get your grips tight. Sometimes I have to use vice grips or something that I'm not intending to use. But what I did for the PCV valve, I remember I got a really good grip. I think I did use vice grip and like a rag or something. But I was replacing this valve, so I knew that if I messed up the, thread, or I messed it up a little bit from the vice grips, it'd be okay because I had a brand new one to install right next to me. So what I did though was I kind of jiggled. I got it tightened down with the vice grip. That's what it was. A good grip, rather, a great grip. And then I jiggled it like real hard. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like real fast and real stiff. Like, just give it a jig, because what it'll do is kind of loosen. Hopefully, at least what my tactic is. What I'm trying to do is loosen up that thread, or kind of break the old whatever's seized up in there from it sitting so long and being heated up and cooled down and heated up and cooled down over and over and over. So you get it. But there is technique to this stuff, and if you just take your time, you can get through it, and you'll get it. You'll figure it out. The new oil cap, definitely just replacing a cheap cap, easy to replace. Oh, what happened to my thing here? I don't know why it's not scrolling down. Let's see. There we go. Oh, we're getting there. Sorry, my computer clicked out. The PCV valve and grommet install, oil cap, and the radiator cap. Yep, easy peasy. Switch the caps out, pop a new one on. New thermostat and gasket. So I did end up buying the new bolts for the thermostat just in case I messed up the old bolts. They ended up coming off. I didn't have issues, and I kept the new ones. They're not too expensive, and you never know. Keep them around for the future. I hooked them back up to torque spec. I try to stay around that as much as possible just because I'm not doing this every day. So my muscle memory isn't where I would like it to just torque things off of muscle memory. So I don't. I get as close as I can to the torque spec. Double check. Burp the coolant. So I just made sure that I got all the bubbles out with any air that I may have introduced from opening the thermostat. But that's pretty straightforward. You might lose a tiny little bit of. You can actually clamp your hose off before you remove it, and I think that would save you that. But I lost a little bit of coolant, and I just topped it back off. I don't even know if I put more in there if it needed it. It was just a little bit that came out. But to be safe, you can just clamp the hose down too, if you would like. So yeah, then I put fluids. I put. Oh, this is just stuff I bought. So I have 6-quart the Toyota fluid, and this is all stuff I figured. Well, if I'm going to buy some stuff for it, let me just get the whatever I need. Let me get the OEM. Let me get the good. Not for everything. Not for a taillight, but for fluid, yeah. ECU. So this was a big one, and I know that we're 30 minutes in, but hopefully you're getting some, at least good information, a good idea based off this information of, some stuff that you'll need to do for your car if you have an older vehicle. This is just brake fluid, antifreeze, and power steering transmission fluid. Um, ECU control. So I actually had an issue that the truck would not start. And I was not sure what it could be. So what I diagnosed off of reading for a couple of hours was that, okay, maybe it's the throttle position sensor. But like I said, the truck has really low miles on it, so I didn't think that these things were gunked up and worn out just yet. The throttle position sensor, the fuel pump, and then of course somewhere in the forums and the threads that I was reading for 2 hours, it said to check the control board, the ECU. So I did a bypass on the. There's a diagnostic box that you can jumper the battery and fuel pump together. Turn the car on, but not all the way. Just turn the key in the ignition to on, and you can listen and hear if your fuel pump's moving or not, or mechanically moving or not. At least that's what I did, and I heard the fuel pump, so I thought, oh, it's not the fuel pump. Well, what would happen is when I cranked it, it would start up for like 1 second. Like it would turn all the way over for like a second, and then die immediately. And right before that, I cranked the car up. Like the first time I cranked it, it ran for like 45 seconds, and then it died. And then after that, it was 1 to 2 seconds. It would just die after cranking over. So this, new to me, and doing the research, I thought, well, let's see what I can do, and what we can figure out. Out of those three things, after checking the fuel pump, I said, all right, because the ECU it's in a kick panel in the front passenger quarter, in the front quarter kick panel, I guess you'd call it, under the glove compartment. It was only a few screws and bolts to get to. You have to take the screws off of the case of the computer board, and you have to take the bolts that hold it to the fender well. And sure enough, the first time I checked it, I didn't really notice anything because the pieces on the back of a computer board are small. I have a little familiarity with working with computer boards, so I have a microscope, a little digital microscope, and I went in, and you could see this with the plain eye looking close enough, but way easier to see with the digital microscope. And I saw that one of the capacitors had leaked out, it had leaked out of the bottom. And what happens a lot of the times with these capacitors is they leak out of the top, and it'll put out like a pink foam, or it looks weird. And point being, it's very visible, and you can just look and see, oh, this capacitor is blown. Well, this happened to leak from the bottom, and it was a little bit harder to see. But what it had done is reached from the contact points that go into the computer board. It had reached down the contact points, and it got into the computer trace and burned out a trace on the board. So this was a little bit beyond this is the one thing I did require some real assistance for, a little bit beyond my to do or DIY. So I sent it out to a company in Florida, and I paid $150 for them to service, $158 for them to repair it and return it. And this company, I think it's called Fix It Electronics. I'll try and be sure if I can put that in the bottom somewhere. They did a great people to do business with. I was a little hesitant for a repair and return service on eBay. I've never used that. It worked out great. They were communicative. They were responsible for everything. They sent it back in a electronic, like a static proof bag, and with a fragile sticker on the box, and just actually like looking out for your stuff. Great business. They ran a jumper. I had to examine. Of course, I had to see what they did when I got it back. Well, they took the covers off, and they examined and I examined the top, and they had jumpered the trace that had been burned with a very small wire, and solder, which obviously, once the trace is burned out, you have to find another way to get the connection points to uh, connect to each other again. Otherwise, it's not going to communicate correctly. So that was the solution for that, and I'd never seen that, but it's very cool, and it did keep me from having to buy a completely new ECU. And in that case, if your ECU were to have been so burned out that it was irreparable, they would send you back most of your money, other than a cover charge just for checking everything out. Um, and you'd have to buy a new ECU. So it's not the end of the world. Just you'd have to order a new computer. The OE computers that I was looking from Japan were like $800 to $1,000. So, I made out well this time. Hopefully, these capacitors go bad. It's a 30-year-old pickup truck. This 1994 pickup truck. Those capacitors are 30 years old. They've been sitting outside in a metal box. So those capacitors could last 10 years and have given out. Anywho, it ended up being the issue. I got it repaired. They sent it back, and they also, I just wanted to make sure I added this in. I told them that I noticed that one capacitor was shot. Well, they repaired all the capacitors on the board except for one, which I don't know if there was a special reason for them not doing it, but they, instead of just doing the one capacitor, they updated the entire board with new capacitors. So again, I can't recommend them enough. Electronics Fix, I think, is the name, or Fix It Electronics. We'll figure it out, and I'll share it in the description or in the video. I just wanted to note that one, especially if you're having an issue, no start. I mean, many things could lead back to an ECU problem, and if you have a leaking capacitor or a burned trace or anything, you're going to have issues with the truck. And the reason I'm mentioning all this is because it's nothing that you would just think off of the bat to check. So that's why I mention all that. And the only reason I checked it is because it was on my list of the 3 things that I was looking at to see if I could figure it out myself. Anyways, I just wanted to make this video. I know this took a little bit longer than I thought, but I really wanted to share. This is everything I've done, which I'm almost done. We're not there yet. This year, it hasn't even been a year, so I guess it's a good thing that I'm doing the video now, so it's not a 4-hour video. So out of all this, it sounds like a heck of a lot, which for some people, yeah, sure. Even for me, looking at the list, wow. But over the time that I did it, it didn't seem like, oh, this is a whole list of things. I just took it one at a time. At the very beginning, when I saw the condition of things, I knew what I was in for, to some degree. But obviously, these other issues pop up. I have no idea what I needed to do, other than find solutions. So that, as what I'm saying is, you don't need to be a mechanic to do this stuff. Just be interested, be curious, and apply the willpower and the effort into it, and you'll figure it out. And if you don't, then you don't. You keep moving forward. So far, we've been able to figure this out and keep the truck going. So in September, I changed the front disc brake pads. I did not do the rotors yet. They didn't look like they were too messed up, so I probably should change them next time. The truck only has 85,000. I just got it to 85,000 miles, original miles. So it's a low mile truck, and it's an older truck, but the 22RE motor is young. The front disc brake pads, I have a small thing that I noted over here. Sorry, let me pull this back up for you guys. A small thing that I noted over here. And this just gives me a brief idea of what I need to do anytime if I need to refer to it, and what I did. And like the caliper size, the pins size, the lug nut size. These are all things again you could write down, check, um, and have checked off the list so that anytime you need to go back and review or you need to check your notes, you have it. And last but not least, in October, so this was most recent, the blower motor removed and checked. I was hearing a, I was hearing like a thudding sound when I turned the heat on, and this is something I hadn't looked at till later, but sure enough, once I got online and looked at it, a lot of times it's just dirty. There was mice in there, or just like clogged up from hair, rodents. So in my case, it the one bolt that you have to get to is a little tricky to get to, but it's right there under the glove compartment, and you get it once you get this bolt the screws off. I think it was 3. The blow motor kind of wiggles itself out. Kind of have to do some finesse, but you could get it out. And yeah, mine was full of junk. It was nasty. It was full of probably like dead mice, remains, like dusty bones and hairs and lint. I don't know. But that was what was causing the thudding when I would turn the heat on. It would be like, and I would always turn it right off because I figured I was going to mess something up. Which, sure enough, a lot of times the resistor blows because it gets jammed up and it blows the resistor. Anyways, the resistor was fine in my case, and I just needed to clean it out. So I cleaned it out real well and reinstalled it, and I got heat. It is cold right now, so it's nice to have some heat. All right, everybody. So we are going to wrap up the video. I am up to speed on everything that I've done other than the video I put up on YouTube the other week. I just added my rooftop tent and the cargo rack for the rooftop that the rooftop tent sits on. I installed that into the bed of the truck. It actually is hooked up on a 2x6, and the 2x6 is sitting on 4x4 posts. So I just cut legs with the 4x4 posts and then put 2x6 down each side of the truck bed. That way they sit above the wheel well that obviously is in the bed of the truck, so it sits up over that, but it's not above the bed, so it's just under the line of the truck bed, like the top of the truck bed. And I didn't want it sitting up too high, for obvious reasons. Anyways, that's the most recent thing I've done. So nothing mechanical, like no repairs or maintenance or anything. Just a little addition. And you know what that means? Next time I will have something for you for probably the front rotors being replaced, and I need to do the rear disc brakes. Now, as I've been learning all this stuff, and doing it, I really didn't want to put videos out until after I did some of it one time. As far as giving information out, I just didn't feel comfortable until I did it, and then that way I can explain it with experience. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this up here. This is everything that I've done to the pickup truck since I got it in April. I didn't add all this up yet, but I want to say if we added this up right now, I don't want to waste all your time. Maybe somebody else has already done that, and you can leave that in the comments section below, or just know that you will have to invest in an older truck or car if you buy one. You're going to invest some more money off the rip just to get some basic stuff done. And one more side note that I want to make about what I'm doing and why I'm sharing this in the first place is I don't know how much money I've saved by doing this labor, but let me tell you that by learning these things and experiencing making mistakes, it's just like anything else. It gives you a little bit of a little bit more self confidence, a little bit more purpose, and just learning things. Learning just like learning anything else. Like I'm learning watercolors, watercolor painting, things that everything and anything that you are intrigued to, you have the potential to learn and experience. So with your creative expression and your creative purpose and your spiritual will, with what you desire to do, it could be something as simple as changing the cap on the gas, or on your engine, changing your oil cap, or just changing some brake pads. It could be building an entire car yourself. The point is to be immersed in the process and appreciate the journey of the experience and not be focused on any outcome. So hopefully that wraps everything up in a nice bow. If you have any questions about anything that you're doing with your vehicles, you can holler at me and I'll give you my best advice as a non-mechanic. And yeah, you could. All I know is that you could do it. I know that. So, and hey, if things are that bad with whatever you're working on that you have to throw a towel, I mean, don't be afraid to do that too. I have a conversation for another video for that. Sometimes things need to get destroyed or things need to be eliminated so that you can reintroduce something newer to your life or your lifestyle or your pattern, your habits and patterns. Before we get too psychological in this video, this was for intended purposes of the truck, just showing pickup truck maintenance, what you might have to do to order a vehicle if you're interested in one, to stay positive in the process, even though it could be a pain in the ass. But overall, I mean, you got it. So if it's something you're interested in, go for it. And just like anything else, go, immerse yourself in it and appreciate the process, appreciate the mistakes. I don't drive all the time, so this is what I drive when I do drive, though. So my daily driver, thankfully I've been able to crank it up and it's been running good. Hasn't even been a year yet, and you see what I put into it. This is just some food for thought to give you guys some background and be a little bit more straight up with the process, straight up with the cost, which I tried to mark that out. If anybody cares to add it up, just take that as a grain of salt, like anything else. It's more about your willpower. This stuff isn't that expensive compared to what they're charging for vehicles these days. I mean, holy shit. I'm pretty sure I'm still under 5,000 with all that being said and done with the purchase of the truck. That is the truck as well. All right. Now, this is all I told you. It was kind of beat up, dirty. Obviously, I've had to do some things to it, and I'm still doing things to it. But it was 2250. The motor's got 85,000 miles on it. I'm pretty sure I could just pull the motor out and sell that and make at least some of the money back if I needed to. But the truck's great. I'm thankful for this entire process. Just to remember and remind everybody to appreciate the journey. So yeah, with that being said, this video, I'm going to do minor editing. You'll see me add in some video clips, hopefully. Or if you get to the end of this video, just saying much appreciation for stopping by the channel. I hope you got some good info out of the video. And if not, I hope you enjoyed just, seeing what you got to do if you want to work on one of the older vehicles. It's not just a walk in the park. I'm not a content creator, so I'm not going to sit here and every single time I do something, I'm going to freaking, video record it. I like to enjoy my life. If anything, I'm an artist in heart, and this is my way of expressing it to you. Once again, I'm not here to create, happy content for you. But I do want to give you some stuff that you can take along with you in your journey. With that being said, everybody, I will be back in some more videos this year. I want to upload before the year's over, one being my favorite piece of backpacking gear of 2025. So if you like outdoor stuff, hiking, backpacking, camping, even gardening. I got a garden out here. Holler at me about anything you guys want. I'm specifically, this YouTube channel is designed to provide as much information as possible, but without BS. So it's going to be a unique ride, to say the least. I appreciate everybody being here. As always, thank you so much. Definitely check out the other playlist in the channel. Depending on what you're interested in, you may or may not want to, endeavor. But at least check it out, and that way you'll know. I have so much more to share, but I don't want to take up. We filled up an hour, and I don't want to take up much more time. I've covered everything that we needed to cover today. So I appreciate everybody being here, and I will see you in the next video. Much love. Peace. Oh, yeah. Get on down the hill, buddy. There you go, bud. Is that better?